Some days hit harder than others, and today felt like a punch to the gut. You ever look around and realize that the only thing keeping your family's legacy from being swallowed by greed is an old rusted valve tucked away under the soil? One that your great-grandfather installed nearly a century ago, back when men built things to last and promises meant something. Well, that's where I found myself, staring down the barrel of betrayal, courtesy of the Willowbrook HOA. And believe me, they picked the wrong day and the wrong man. My daughter Emma, just 12, was at the hospital fighting leukemia. We'd spent the whole day there. 4 drips, sterile rooms, exhaustion that settles deep in your bones. I came home to find a chunk of my family's soul reduced to rubble. The old barn, built by my great-grandfather, patched and painted every summer by me and Dad, was gone. Bulldozed, torn down like it was some forgotten shack. All that remained was a mangled pile of wood and splinters, and a silent excavator perched on the lawn like a vulture. They called it an urgent safety demolition, but anyone with a heartbeat could see the truth. It was a land grab, carefully timed, cruelly executed. I parked the truck. Emma, half asleep in the passenger seat, cracked one eye open and whispered, "Daddy, where's the barn?" I couldn't even answer. My throat closed up. My hands shook. The weight of everything, Emma's illness, the history we lost, the gall of it all, hit me square in the chest. Before I could process it, a man in a neon vest jogged over, dropped a manila envelope into my hands, and launched into a rehearsed apology. "We tried to contact you," he said. The notice, bold red letters stamped across it, was dated that very morning. A lie. We hadn't left home all week except for Emma's chemo appointment. They knew we'd be gone. They waited. Emma, God bless her, even in her condition, sat up straight and started taking pictures of the notice, the wreckage, the license plate on the excavator. "We need proof, Daddy," she said, like in those courtroom shows. And she was right. Then Betty Chin came marching over from across the street. A sharp woman with a memory like a steel trap. "Marcus," she said, breathless. "I saw them here last week, Karen and some guy with blueprints. They were measuring your land, talking about lake access and something about a summer expansion plan." She had photos too, dates, faces, timestamps. Not a safety issue. Premeditated move. Neighbors gathered, some just watching, others nodding in disgust. I knelt by the wreckage, heart pounding, when something shiny caught Emma's eye. A battered lockbox, dented but closed. I pried it open, and inside, under old family photos and tools, were documents older than any of us. Blueprints of the lake's water system, stamped and signed county records, and a contract that made my hands tremble. Turns out, my great-grandfather didn't just build the barn. He built the entire water infrastructure for the area. The dam, the pipelines, the main valve. And more than that, he secured a legal agreement giving the Sullivan family perpetual rights and maintenance authority over the water system. The very lake Karen Whitmore's precious resort depends on. It flows through our legacy. Suddenly my grief ignited into something sharper. Purpose. I documented everything. Emma took more pictures. Betty helped catalog it all. That's when Tank Rodriguez showed up, ex-Marine, local contractor. He looked at the demolished site and said flat out, "Nobody uses that kind of heavy equipment for a safety demo." That was deliberate. They wanted it gone beyond repair. Betty leaned in and whispered that Karen had been overheard saying she needed the Sullivan property cleared before summer season. Phase 2 of her lakefront empire. It wasn't just about the barn. It was our land they were after. But the paperwork in that lockbox, that was the game changer. Hand-drawn maps, county seals, a 1924 easement that gave us legal control over the main valve, the one regulating the lake's entire water flow. Without it, Karen's resort would dry up. Literally. So the next day, I walked into the emergency HOA meeting Karen had called. Folder in one hand, Emma in the other. She sat quietly beside me, clutching the photos like evidence in a trial. I stood in front of the room, looked Karen in the eye, and laid everything out. "You called my barn unauthorized?" I said. "It was the backbone of the lake's entire water system. Built by a man who didn't just raise a structure, he built a legacy." Then I opened the folder and began to speak. They said it was just a misunderstanding, just a safety precaution. But I knew better. The truth is, the Willowbrook HOA didn't see a barn. They saw opportunity. They tore down the old structure while I was away with my daughter during one of her hardest cancer treatments. Claimed it was an emergency demolition. But the only emergency was that it stood in the way of their expansion plans. Betty had proof. Photos, dates, receipts, everything laid out like a crime scene. Emma, my brave little filmmaker, helped me take the story live on Facebook. She wore her cap low to cover her bald head but smiled like a warrior. I told everyone what really happened. How the HOA destroyed a piece of my family's history for profit, knowing full well I wouldn't be home to fight it. The reaction was immediate. Thousands tuned in. Comments exploded. People were furious. I even read out Karen's emails, blatant proof of premeditation. She'd scheduled the demolition knowing my daughter was undergoing treatment that very same week. If you've ever watched a small town turn on someone with righteous fury, you know the storm that followed. Next day, I drew a line. Literally. The century-old valve my great-grandfather installed? That became my stand. Karen retaliated with threats. Surveillance SUVs parked outside, security cameras aimed at my windows, and glossy brochures calling me a water terrorist. She even spread lies about my mental health, implying that Emma's illness was affecting my judgment. That broke something inside me. I looked Emma in the eyes and said, "We don't let fear decide what's right. We fight." Then it escalated. Karen filed for eminent domain, claiming my land was vital for community safety. She spun my daughter's illness into her case, arguing medical access might be compromised. That's when our neighbors stepped in. Tank, Betty, and others weren't having it. Betty uncovered Karen's tax records, false losses tied to a luxury resort that her social media showed was booming. Rick from the hardware store had receipts. Karen had been buying surveillance gear in cash. Jennifer, who works in insurance, found out Karen made a $50,000 donation to the insurer handling Emma's claim, right when our coverage was mysteriously flagged for extended review. Emma's condition worsened. She needed a bone marrow transplant urgently, but the insurance delayed approval, citing concerns about community risk. Then Karen showed up, crocodile tears and a $750,000 offer for my land. She said she just wanted to help. Emma watched her go and quietly asked, "Daddy, she's not really helping us, is she?" I told her the truth. That night, I grabbed every document, every piece of evidence and my fury, and walked out to that old water valve. I twisted the wheel shut, cutting off the flow to Karen's resort. By morning, the lawns were dying, the pools cracked, guests scrambling with suitcases through dust. Karen called me screaming. I said, "Now you know what it feels like to watch something you love get ruined." And I hung up. The county meeting was packed. Jennifer live-streamed it. Emma, fragile but fierce, sat beside me in her Team Sullivan hat. I presented everything: fraud, abuse, threats, backdoor deals. Then Emma played a voice message she'd recorded. "Mrs. Whitmore is making my daddy choose between saving me and saving our land." No one in that room stayed dry-eyed. Last, I played Karen's voice, caught on tape admitting she used Emma's cancer to pressure the insurance company. That sealed it. Federal agents got involved. The state attorney general opened a fraud investigation. The county stripped Karen of all HOA control. Her resort collapsed, her investors fled, and her legal battles buried her. Meanwhile, Emma got her transplant. Full insurance coverage. No more delays. Her recovery was nothing short of miraculous. When her hair started growing back, curly and red, she painted a sunrise over the lake, right where the barn had stood. The land became public trust, protected by the people. The William Sullivan Community Center now stands as both a tribute to my great-grandfather and to Emma's strength. On the day she came home, the whole neighborhood gathered for a barbecue. Felt like family again. Some things are worth fighting for, especially when it feels like you've got nothing left to lose. If you believe in standing your ground, protecting those you love, and making wrongs right, let others know. Because justice should flow as freely as water.